Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Failing Daily on the Road. I'm traveling the United States, getting some insights and thoughts from leaders in business and leadership, investing, some government contracting, all from the front seat of my Cybertruck. We call them Prime, by the way, in case you want to know. Yes, I named the stupid car. I'm Bill Williams, and in this episode, I'm going to spend some time talking to Matt Foster, CEO of Avatar Computing. They've been around for a long time, 19 years, I think, as long as us. And we're going to spend some time talking about leadership and entrepreneurship, having a sense of humor along the way. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with him. Matt even introduced me to some local fare when I had a chance to visit him down in South Carolina. So you'll see a video. Go look up shotgun shells if you really want to find something that's not healthy for you, basically. And it was a lot of fun. So here we go. All right, I'm here today, our first interview with Matt Foster, President, CEO, owner of Avatar Computing. We're gonna have a chat. Look forward to it. I've known Matt for a long time,
long time.
Yep, a long time.
Yep.
And we also are. We'll talk a little bit about it, but we're doing a joint venture together as well. So it's going to be good. All right, so Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something fun.
Sure. So I'm, like you said, CEO, owner of Avatar Computing. We've been around 20 years. Started out working with the Army over at Soldier Systems Command up in Natick. And we've focused mainly on IT support solutions and services. We started out as we are a family business. And then over time, I bought out my dad more recently. Our primary customers are the DoD. We do also work with SSA and with a lot of different commissions like the Ability One Commission and with the ABMC, which is the battlefield cemeteries. And over time, we've worked with pretty much all of the DoD agencies, the Air Force, Marines, Army, and Navy.
How about a little bit about the type of work, not who, but the type of work and how that's changed over time, because you've been doing it a long time.
Right. So when we first started, we were mostly doing IT support, C4ISR type work on basis. So we would be doing help desk services, we'd be doing server room, database administration, things like that. And we did that for probably 8 or 10 years. And then in there, while we were at Natick's such a melting pot of all these different missions that we ended up becoming kind of go-to guys for special projects. So we would end up doing.
And by Natick, you mean?
Natick Labs,
okay.
up in Natick, Massachusetts.
Yep. Okay.
And that lab, their mission is to really support anything that's non-lethal that supports the U.S. soldier. So camouflage, food, tents, anything like that. So you have a whole lot of different project offices that are there with all different kinds of needs. And because we were embedded with the acquisition center, we kind of caught a lot of these little projects of doing different things. So when people needed some automation services, or they needed a special software made, or they needed a special portal made, or something like that, we would end up being kind of a catch-all team to help make those things. Over time, we started to grow. We started to branch out and do stuff in Aberdeen and with other contracting agencies, Huntsville, things like that. We got more and more into actually specifically cloud development for applications, and less of the C4ISR. Although we would still do that, we just have less of that as a business model.
All right, Matt. So can you share a little bit about your journey, kind of your entrepreneurship journey? What got you going at the beginning of the whole thing?
So it was really a reaction to another company, as strange as that might sound, right? I did not come out of like a business school or anything like that. I was working at Natick as a contractor, and I worked for a company that was really hard to work for. They were one of these huge companies. I had a hard time working with them, and over time kind of realized that I could just do this myself. And that's really kind of where it started from, is a frustration with big business, to be honest with you. And I had all these ideas of how I could really streamline this process to do what I was doing. And it was really just focused on what I was delivering to the government, which was managing an IT team. That's all it was. And we were actually more of a, what they called at the time, a shadow DUM, but we were a separate support unit that was mission specific, that would, be a liaison to the NetCom, to the DUM that ran the whole base. And so I had all these ideas of how we could work that better, do this, and the government really agreed with me, but the company that I worked for didn't like any of that. Eventually what happened was when it came up for renewal, I kind of promoted the idea and proposed on doing it myself. I did not have a whole lot of business acumen at the time. I didn't know much about how to do it. I was kind of learning as I went. I did get some mentorship from one of my dad's partners who he had worked with out at Hanscom, Rick Hancock, who's a great guy. And he was kind of my initial shepherd of trying to understand how the process worked. And then, of course, I worked in an acquisition center, so that obviously helped too. I had knowledge from doing that. And that's how I won my very first contract. And it was for help desk support. We had our first contract that I won lasted for quite a while. We re-won it multiple times. And I got very comfortable with working within the paradigm of that customer. And so we knew that Army R&D type customer very, very well. Yep. We knew how to deliver. We knew what their thought process was, all that stuff. And we grew because of it. They would promote us to other agencies. They were a fee-for-service agency. Yep. So it made it very easy for them to say, oh, you guys need help. Avatar could do stuff like that, and we would work out a contract, all those things. And I got very comfortable with that. And to this day, if I could take that 10 to 15 year time period and go back and kick myself in the ass and say, why were you not going out and proposing on other things and spreading out to other places and not just honing on this one place? Because what ultimately happened was they had eventually a change in upper leadership. And we had gone through, in our time there, we'd gone through probably 3 different SDSs that ran. This would be the RDECOM ACC at Aberdeen. So the headquarters for acquisitions for Army contracting. And we went through multiple SESs, and they always shared the vision of what Natick was trying to do, which was they were a remote acquisition center that was also doing fee-for-service for a variety of different agencies because they were focused on R&D. Because Natick was a melting pot already, Natick would have a project office there that was for the Navy doing research on XYZ, right?
Yep.
So because of that, Natick Contracting had all these different kinds of customers. And in order to support those missions, they would charge a fee for it. So it made them easy to scale out. They would have work in San Diego, they would have work in Florida, they would have all these different places. So we got very used to working in that environment. And because we had growth there, that's where I focused. And I wish I had the thought back in those days to step out of that role, to step out of managing that almost like a program manager instead of an owner of a business. I was treating it almost like I was a program manager type thing. I wish I had thought to step out of that role and become more of like, as a business, I need to focus on getting other proposals in the pipeline to other places.
So is that, do you think, is that just like a hot take, entrepreneurial lesson to take out of this? Or
oh yeah, very much.
It's certainly that, but is it also, I don't know, a much broader statement about that whole thing where you kind of work on your business versus in your business?
Correct. Yes.
So
and I fell victim to that in a major way, because they eventually got an SES who brought in all of his own people, and he went, and it wasn't gun to us. There was nothing we did wrong. Like, we were performing perfectly fine. But he basically came in with the philosophy that all the support contractors across all the acquisition agencies were going to get cut. So again, not targeted to us, it was just targeting how he wanted to run the organization.
Right.
But it literally cut our company in half.
Wow.
By him doing that. So again, I reeled from that as a failure, you know what I mean? Going back to the question. But I really was like, God, how, and I felt very foolish there was a solid time period after that where I'm like, why would I not think to get out of that? You know what I mean? You would think it'd be something that you could position yourself for if you thought it through. But I was so engaged with that customer, so engaged in growing that way, that I was blinded by it. Frankly, just trying to be honest.
Well, then, how do you suggest any of us identify? Because when you're in the middle of it,
yes,
that's the problem. Like, how do you know?
So
what would you suggest?
if I was giving advice to how I could have fixed it for myself, if you're the owner, if you're the ultimate decision maker in the company, or one of the, let's say you're part of a board, whatever it is, you really, and this is where I failed, I feel, you really need to either remove yourself from the delivery of the product or service as a direct person doing it, or you need to set aside time where you're saying, this is when I'm not doing that.
So you can, to rephrase that,
yeah.
Is this true? You can work on your business while you work in your business.
Of course.
You just need to have separate time periods to do it.
Exactly. So when you're and I saw this
discipline. That's got to be
very much. I saw this at Natick all the time. Is you had all these different guys who were 2 men in the company, 4 men in the company. They were just consultants or whatever.
Yeah.
But they would literally run the company like right from their car in the parking lot. Things like that. And a lot of these guys had very different ambitions. I knew from meeting a lot of these other guys on base that I had different ambitions than they did.
How do you approach to managing your teams, motivating your teams? Maybe give us a time you had a significant leadership challenge. So
we have the mentorship type paths for younger folks where we pair them up with people and we do a lot of mentorship into it. I'm a believer that, especially if you're doing triage and help desk type services, you're bringing in younger crowds of people, there's going to be a mix of them with people who've been doing it for years. And pairing them up, letting them know that it's okay to not be embarrassed. You know what I mean? There's every mission-based...
Oh, I don't know. You mean something like Fail Daily?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're exactly right. The idea being is that even if the kid is certed, and I say kid, but a younger person is certed and they were a nerd at home and they did all kinds of education and stuff, they are still going to be new to the mission needs of where they're going to be. Obviously, that has gradients. If somebody's screwing up, you got to take care of it. All those things still apply, but we're trying to encourage them not to be afraid. On the other side of it, when we have someone who's a seasoned professional, I'm talking more like a project manager or like let's say a very seasoned cloud architect or database guy or something like that. The approach for that kind of person has always been, we're hiring you as the expert, we're hiring you as the professional. So the expectation is that they can do their job and we trust them to do their job. My philosophy has always been to be fairly hands-off as far as managing their ability to do their expertise. You know what I mean? Let them be the professional that they're supposed to be. And then if there's issues with that or if there's things that we need to work out, then we work that out as they get acclimated into the job.
I'm going to tell you a funny one and then see if it gets you going with any of your funny ones. So I started a medical staffing business a long time ago.
Yeah.
So one of the employees, kind of different folks than I work with now, but one of the recruiters, she kind of rushed out midday and, she told me her mom had passed.
Oh.
I was like, geez, let us know what we can do, right?
Yeah.
So, and then she just was gone. And and I was she didn't come back, and you know, a little time went by, and I called her, I emailed her to see if she was okay. I didn't know what had happened, and so finally I got her home number, and I called her home, and her mom answered, and I go,
the mom who had passed.
Yeah,
right?
the mom who had passed.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was her excuse for quitting. Is her mom? I'm like,
God.
you can't think of something better. So I talked to her mom, and at this point, I'm like, I'm not letting her off the hook. So I was talking to her mom, and I'm like, yeah, I thought you were dead. She's like, what? I was like, well, Jasmine told me you were dead. I was just calling to check on her. She hasn't been back for, it's like 3 weeks now or something, and I was just worried about her. But I tell you what, let her know she doesn't need to come back. And then and her mom was like, she goes, she said something funny. She's like, well, I'm gonna kill her.
Oh, yeah,
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
So,
We had one time where this very scenario bit us in the butt. Became a problem at one of our places down in Aberdeen. We had a staff member down there doing SharePoint services, and they were very packed in there. Like, they had one building, and they had all these people that were shoulder to shoulder working on stuff. And so we had heard that our guy, that he was doing a good job, but they didn't see him much. And they said, but we're not complaining. They would like go out of their way to say, but we're not complaining. Like he does a good job.
okay.
And that's always the worst kind of feedback, is that when a government person tells you a criticism and then tells you don't do anything about it, is the implication, right?
Right.
And so I always, over the years, that has put my radar up. Like, well, regardless of what the government person say, now I need to look into this to make sure it's, because they could just be trying to be nice or try not to start a problem or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
So this happens again. I hear a similar comment. This is like, a month later. And then I go down there for a visit, because now it's prompted me to, okay, this is more than a one-time comment, right? So I go down, I meet with the program manager, and he's a nice enough guy, but again, they have a lot of very strict rules where they are. And I'm asking him, so when you say he's not around much, what do you mean? And they said, well, he'll go to lunch, and then we won't see him until like 2 o'clock. I said, okay, so he's taking like a long lunch. And he said, well, we just won't be able to find him. And then when he's back, you'll hear a story that he was here or there, but you don't know where he is. He's not at his desk, you know. So I'm trying to ascertain, is it just miscommunication, or is it like a real problem, or what? And then he goes, well, we know he has a night job. And I said, is that a problem? Like, obviously he's allowed to have a second, you know.
Not specifically a problem, right?
We wouldn't normally tell someone they couldn't go have a job on the weekends or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I said to the guy, I guess I never heard this part. You know, like, is that a problem? He goes, well, we know that because of that, sometimes he takes a nap in his car. So I said, like slowly the puzzle's coming together, right? So I said, well, you know what? I will talk to him. And the guy kept reiterating, you know, like, it's happened enough that it's becoming an issue, but I don't want you to get mad or anything. This is what the guy's saying to me. And I know what that means. Like, that becomes code, like, we're getting ready to pull the plug on this guy, you know? So I said, you know what? Let me go out and talk to him. Let me make sure that I understand. If it's a situation where he's too tired or something, I'll talk to him about that. But I didn't even know that was part of the issue. So I go out to the guy's desk. And, of course, this is at 1 o'clock. Nowhere to be found. So I'm walking the floor with a person that they had there in the office, trying to find him. No one knows where he is. So I go outside, and sure enough, now it's like 1:30. He's dead asleep in his car at 1:30. So he did not last long after that. But he would go out and basically sleep in his car for like 2.5 hours every day.
Nice.
Yes.
More of a question about, you know, motivation and focus, and particularly how do you stay motivated and focused during tough times, whether it's lost a contract, companies half the size,
right,
or something else on an individual day, you know. And I don't know if I think that I'd be interested to hear if it's a range of things like how you do your stress and health, whatever, or a broader picture, even if you want to.
Right.
How do you manage it overall for the company?
I guess the easy answer would be like the routine, right? I mean, I definitely am a person who, Air Force kid, so I grew up with checklists. You know what I mean? So, so I definitely am a believer that having a routine, at least, that doesn't mean every day I can't change. But what I'm getting at is having certain things that I try to make sure that I do every day. Like every day I go through what I need for the day, the week, and the month for task lists, things like that. Having routines that keep me at least on path of what needs to be delivered and what we need to consider and things like that. That's one thing. I mean, that's kind of the obvious, like low-hanging fruit kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, I mean, the normal pressures of running a company are pretty focusing oftentimes, you know what I mean? You have people depending on you, and you have people that are trying to hit you up for feedback. I mean, you and I have had conversations before about how the job as the owner has a large value in just decision making all the time, and it becomes part of the weave, where there are those who are just approaching you all the time with, well, what do we do about this? Well, what do we want to do about that? And you become naturally inclined to absorb information and then try to have some kind of path that you can give people. And even if it's not a solid directive, at least you're giving them things to explore, ways to keep moving forward, right? What's the job of the leader? The job of the leader is to remove problems and give advice as to how they can keep moving forward, right? And then create a vision of where we're trying to go.
I want to say technical, but I mean that very broadly. Is there anything that everyone knows you go to Matt for that? And I'm not talking about the business ops, but is there anything technical or
media stuff?
Artistic or
honestly, the media stuff or the artsy stuff is that because of my background, there'll be something that sounds like something we could do, and then what will happen is they will ask us.
Okay, full self-drive is good until
I was just gonna say,
until it's on the other side of the road and there's an 18-wheeler coming.
We were just about to have a whole different podcast.
yeah, that was interesting. Okay, it's all good. It's all good.
The thing that would fall into that category would be like when we do media things. So we've had contracts where we did video production, and we've had contracts where we made VR, 3D video, things like that. A lot of our people that would write to technical, things like that, that is not their wheelhouse, but it's more my wheelhouse.
How about advice? Advice or maybe misconceptions about small business. But before I ask that, actually, are you glad you did it? Is it fun? A balance of the last 20 years.
Oh yes, I love it.
Glad you did it?
I love it. Actually, that feeds right into some of the advice.
Let's do that. Then.
You have to love it. You can't go long term running a business with all the ups and downs if you don't really believe it. If one thing that I would want someone to walk away from me understanding is that the thing I do for our customers is something that I truly believe helps people. And I really do. I'm a true believer. I mean, you know that from knowing me for so long. Yep. Is that if I did not believe that it was actually helping people and doing the things that I think that it does, I would not have the heart to put up with all the ups and downs of running a business. And I think that's very crucial. I think that that's really the heart of being a business owner, is that you really have to believe that what you're doing is worth it. If you don't believe that there is purpose or value of what you're delivering, then you really should not be running a business. It's too much pain, right? It's too much work. It's too much heartache. It's too much family drama. It's too much everything. One of our customers was ONR, which is the Office of Naval Research, and their job was to make the ESAPI plates, which are body armor plates that soldiers put into the pouches of their body armor flak jackets and stuff. And so we had 2 guys working on that project and everything. And when I was there, they would have these assemblies where they would bring you into like a theater, and they would have people from either scientists who are doing certain things or soldiers who came back from war or whatever. They had a gentleman who came back, and he had they had video footage of him guarding a Humvee in Iraq, and a terrorist cell had targeted him to use him for a propaganda video. So there was a sniper, and there was a guy holding a video camera with the sniper to make this propaganda video of killing this kid, right? This American soldier. They put a bead on him. They shot him in the Asapi plates. The Asapi plates did their job. He went down, but he got back up. It softened the blow so much that he took a line on who got him, took out the two guys, and then they captured the video camera. So this guy came home with a video of himself getting shot and surviving and taking out the two guys. They brought him in to talk to us. Now, to this day, I'm like, that's something we did. That's something that we did paperwork, we did project management, we did help with. And it really hits home when you're watching the video, the kid's on stage.
Wow.
Nothing motivates you to go back to work like that. And we had multiple things like that would happen. We worked with people who did face transplants for people that got hit by grenades. We did things for people that, feeding the soldiers. Like, it's not all, horribly graphic or anything, but even just the quality of the tent so they would stay warm. These were all things that really hit home. And that very much made an impression on me that if I'm going to do stuff for these guys, and I'm third generation military, my son's a Marine, it really means something if we're delivering something that helps people. And that's so that's a huge piece of advice. Believe in what you're doing. Don't be afraid to have friends. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad. It's a team sport where when you partner with people, when you work with other companies and stuff like that, obviously there has to be a valid business relationship that helps both parties. But in the end, you're going to learn from those people. You're going to become a better business person because you're engaging with those people routinely. And I think that's, especially someone starting out, that is really, really key. You're gonna learn way faster if you're trying to collaborate with other business people.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like great advice.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
For taking the time. I really appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We'll do some more. We'll come up with some more topics. And
yeah, no problem.
Do another drive.
It's great.
I'm Bill Williams. I'm Failing Daily, and so is Matt. and go to failingdaily.com if you want to connect or you want to see some content. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, Matt and I are here, and we're going to talk a little bit about shotgun shells.
Right.
And, there's going to be a picture. We'll give you a picture.
So you can't visit the South and not have barbecue. So when Bill was coming down, I decided to make shotgun shells, which is a manicotti shell for noodles, and then you pack it with a mixture of sausage and cheese and cream cheese, and then you wrap it in bacon, and then you put barbecue sauce on it, and then in my case I smoke it for like an hour and a half, and then what happens is the meat and the bacon, as they cook, it actually softens and cooks the manicotti shell, and it comes out delicious. And they look like shotgun shells. That's why they call it that. But they're a standard down here in South Carolina. People make them for barbecue all the time.
They are insane.
They're very good. Yep.
Wow. Thanks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thanks for making them too.
Oh yeah. I love making them.
All right. I'm Bill Williams, and I'm Failing Daily. Check out failingdaily.com if you want to see some content or connect with me.